Okay, so this is a review for the first 7 books of the Wheel of Time series. Out of 15, so that means I'm roughly halfway there, or halfway there if you discount the prequel. I'd just like to say like and subscribe to the 3 people that are watching this video, and let's get right into it. It's been like 2 months since I read the first one, so we're not going to go through each individual book and give my thoughts, but I'd rather just give my thoughts on the story and the characters as a whole so far. First off, I think that the progression of the story has been pretty damn well paced, especially for having the amount of pages per a book. And for this initial spoiler-free section of the video, I'll just say that there's not many sections that drag past the initial world building in a couple of the beginning books, mainly the first 3 books. After that, the writing style transitions from like more of a Tolkien to like a modern day writing style, something like Brandon Sanderson, where it flows and there's less flowery prose and there's less time spent describing every single little detail. That I very much enjoyed, and my reading pace increased exponentially once I started hitting books 4, 5, 6, 7, and like now I'm on book 8 and I'm finishing a book in like a week or less, as 1, I'm invested, and 2, the writing and the world is easier to consume. Speaking of the slog that everybody talks when reviewing these books or pitching them to people, I think Wheel of Time fans have such a hard job pitching how many fucking pages this series is to potential readers that they degrade their own books. I am 2.5 or 1.5 books into the slog, as depending on what you describe as the slog. And honestly, yeah, they're slightly lower in quality, but they still read very easily, and you can get through them quickly. Like, I've finished each of the slog books in a week or less, just doing a couple pages a day. And overall, I think that the discrepancy between that and then the best books that I've read so far is not too far. It's just more focusing on character interactions instead of large movements and plot points that are not quite as exciting. And overall, I don't think that the slog is that big of a deal, and it has affected me a lot less than I thought, especially with the books being shorter page count by like 400, 500 pages in some cases. Overall, to keep the spoiler-free section short and concise, yes, I give this a recommendation to read. The beginning books are quite slow, but it speeds up pretty quickly once you hit book 2 or book 3. And book 1 may just be essentially like Lord of the Rings, but not Lord of the Rings, but it's very enjoyable in the way it goes about things, and a lot of the characters are engaging, and you quickly become attached to quite a few of them. To keep this video concise, I'm just going to go through the important characters and how they've impacted so far and how I like them. The main character, or the person that is the most involved, is Rand, who after a certain point you know is the Dragon Reborn main character. But the twist is he's going fucking insane, and I really like that twist on the generic main character, because they do dupe you. They start him out as he's Aragorn, he's Harry Potter, he's Percy Jackson, where he's just the smiling good guy with a sword and does the right thing. But hits book 3, and then like you start seeing the dark side of him and how this is affecting him, and as it progresses, the burden of his role and his character shifts dramatically, going from like the naive farm boy to pretty much a dictator of some sorts, and it's very enjoyable to watch. And I'm interested to see how much more he degrades, or if he manages to hold on longer, especially halfway through the series. It seems like he's getting to the point of breaking. Next to the main trio of guys would be Matt, who is a pretty small role until he gets cured from the dagger disease, of which then he turns into like one of your favorite characters, as he is the scoundrel who is not the biggest fan of sources of power such as the Aes Sedai or kings and queens. He likes to just run and gamble. His character gets much more interesting as he becomes more Ta'veren, and the dice start ringing in his head, and then he gets the medallion which makes him immune. That really expedites his character becoming main POV, and he gets into some exciting things. And I would say that the only qualms I have about Matt so far is that he does not seem to trust some people he should be able to. Besides that, he has some of the funniest chapters. Some of my favorite dynamics with Matt have been when he gets into situations he clearly should not be in. Like the most recent example I can think of is where instead of the Queen of Ibudar thinking he is just like a scoundrel like Nynaeve and Elaine say, she actually takes a liking to him, and he ends up in a situation that he never would have and should not have based on stereotypical like royalty and tropes like that. Or when he ends up using fireworks to blow open the Wall of Tyr and fight blade masters to rescue the girls. Like, those are just fun moments that it's a situation of I shouldn't be here, but I am, and that's just very enjoyable. The third of the main trio guys, Perrin is up and down. I was very mid on him until book 4, of which he had some of the greatest sequences, and now it's back down as he hasn't done much. But it's in the most recent book I'm reading, the 8th book, he is getting a little bit more to do, and I like his dynamic with some of the different factions going on. The three main girls of the series are Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine. I guess you could throw Aviendha in there too, but she doesn't come in until later. And my biggest problem with them is that they developed the Aes Sedai attitude a couple books too early. At the point I'm now in, it makes sense, but earlier on, especially like book 3, when they were giving Matt all types of shit just for literally doing nothing but positive things. So far, I'm not a fan of any of the romances with any of the characters, and the main thing that I've enjoyed from them is the scheming they get into, and they get way over their heads, and they seem to realize it, and they'll make it out okay, but overall, they actually recognize that they're out of their depth. And that works out well for a lot of things. And like recently with Egwene being the Amarylline Seed, I enjoy that aspect of her having to act at a lower station than she actually is until she gets around to, I hope, eventually secure that power. And Nynaeve, I really hope that she does get a bit more character development past just being angry, even though she got her block removed, which I didn't think was the best way to do that, was life and death. I think it should have been some sort of way that had her overcome anger itself, because like she's still getting super angry after that, and I think it should have been a way that she had to conquer her emotions. And then Elaine is just pretty steady character. I would have liked to see a little bit of her being, instead of like, it's cool to see her embrace like, oh, I like not being royalty all the time, that's fun, but it would have been cool to see her have a little bit of a jar instead of everybody just kind of adapting perfectly. Some of the side characters, Tom I really liked in the earlier books, but he's kind of just become background uncle, which it's not my favorite. Moraine fucking died. Hit Lanfear like a linebacker and sent her through that portal, which I don't think they're dead. There's no way they're dead. I think Lanfear is one of the reincarnated female, male, male to female things that we saw at the beginning preview of one of the books. I'm still confused by that. One's a dude that can use the girl source, and one's a girl that can use the dude source. But I'm hoping that'll be more expanded, and I'm hoping, since I think there was some line about Dark Lord gives second chance, that I hope that Moraine somehow found a way out of it, because she was a very cool factor in the way of balancing Rand, especially as her tactics changed over time. Some of the other smaller characters like Gawain and Galad, they haven't really done much to impact my viewing. Character I really actually like the dynamic of is Mazrim Taim, and like what he's doing with the Dark Tower or the Black Tower. Him having power over all the Ashmahan instead of Rand is definitely going to brew for disaster. I can see that in the future, as Rand is just like, you're a weapon, you're nothing more, all of you. And there's going to be probably 1,000 of them, and I think their loyalty lies more to Mazrim Taim, and I'm curious to see that. Plus, Logain coming along. I don't know what he's going to do, but hopefully something fucking cool, because of the Min's viewings. Speaking of Min, I don't really like her. She's kind of just the tomboy. I'm not like the other girls, and it doesn't work very well. I think Avienda is a much better variation of that as being a maiden of the spear, and her transition to like learning more girly thing or wetlander things, as they say, is kind of nice as Elaine teaches her. But that near sister, first sister thing seems a little bit rushed. I would have liked to see that carried across more than like 1.5 books. Especially with the series length, I think a lot of these themes or these character arcs get dragged a bit quickly at times, or just left in the dust at others. For example, like Perrin got dropped off quick, but then other things like Nynaeve's romance with Lan is like shot up in the second book out of nowhere. Besides that, I think that the plot so far has been excellent. I really like the dynamics of the different cultures, such as the Aiel or the Sea-Chan, even though I hate the Sea-Chan, but they really add a competent aspect that we haven't seen from a lot of like the main nations. A lot of the nations like Karhine, Ilion, Tyr, you don't see them as very competent because the way Rand runs through them. But I like the way that both the Aiel and the Sea-Chan have been competent as adversaries, and they provide hopefully more resistance, along with the Forsaken perhaps not getting killed one every book or so. I think that them being so old and literally from technically the future / past, and having these ideas of things that nobody in this universe could comprehend besides them, they should be putting up a bit more of a fight, especially when they're roughly equal to Rand in power for the guys. Instead, they're just getting cooked left and right, like it's like LeBron in 2018. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about Lan. I love Lan, and I wish that there was more. He's just like the favorite character archetype of just the fucking badass that you expect can get anything done, even if he is outside of his power level. If he was like up against Rand or something, you'd be like, I'll find a way to figure it out. He'll just like swing a sword really fast and then stop the fireballs and lightning, right? Right? Probably not, but like, he's the character that you expect to get done what no other can get done. And I'd like really like to see more of him now that he's been back into the story and he got married really quickly. But you know what? Whatever. My man's been booling around for a couple years. He needs to settle down. I do wish that I could see more of the effect of losing Moraine on him, because there was a little hint of it when Egwene discovered them in the forest behind the camp. And then after that, it was like, oh, he's super depressed. And then we haven't really seen a lot of that with Nynaeve. I think that should affect him a bit more, and I hope to see him give that no fucks given, I still think I'm going to die except for you attitude later on. Overall, I give it a thumbs up. It has lived up to the hype and expectations, and I'm very excited for the TV show to come along, and I think that they should cast me, very much so. That'd be great, because I don't want to do college.